So tonight, gentlemen, we're going to talk about strategy. And you can apply strategy to anything in your life, right? You can apply it to a chess game. You can apply it to going and courting a girl, you know. You can be strategic in sports, everything. You can be strategic in how you eat your food on your plate. There's lots of ways to be strategic in life. The intentional man is strategic in everything that he does. Literally everything that he does. And some people, like, I'm not going to share this with a whole lot of people because some people will be like, damn, dude, you think that deep? Fuck, that's scary. Well, no, only if I'm not trustworthy. It could be scary if I'm a manipulative son of a bitch. But if I'm trustworthy, there's nothing to be afraid of because I'm doing what is best to get to where we need to go, right? And I use strategy in everything that I do, all right? So in regards to strategy, can someone give me a general definition for strategy? Anyone care to contribute?
Careful consideration and action to an exact goal.
Well done.
Nailed it, dude. Did you Google that?
I wrote it down.
It's incredible. Well done. Can you repeat that for us?
Careful consideration and action to an exact goal. In my words.
It's great, Bo. Well done. So what is the importance of applying strategy in everything you're doing?
Preparation.
Yeah? You want to be prepared?
Prevents wasted effort.
Prevents wasted effort. So that is the ringer right there. That's the ringer. We only have so much time and energy, right? You guys understand that, right? How many days or how many hours in a day do we have to be active, right? You know, if you sleep 8 hours, we have 16 hours a day to be active. Well, how many hours of the day do we have to eat? How many hours of the day do we have to shower, exercise, clean our clothes, do the dishes, all of that bullshit, mow the yard, clean the car, get gas, drive to work, right? So the actual amount of time that we have to do anything productive and make progress in our lives is very limited. And it's even more limited by the amount of energy that we have. So if we stay up too late and we're lacking a high level of energy, then we're not applying strategy, we're literally wasting that little bit of time and that little bit of energy that we have. Does that make sense? So we're going to talk first about the strategy in personal development. Now, something that I did years and years ago, I will tell you, there were seasons of my life where I did not live intentionally at all because I didn't know where the fuck I was going. I didn't know what I was doing. Didn't really give a shit to. I was literally just like, I guess I had a big old fat case of the fuckets, you know, for a long time. I mean, sad to say, I was growing a business in this time, you know, but I had like no real goals, no real plan, no real target, you know. It was just work and make money. But I didn't have any targets or had set any goals and developed a strategy to get to those goals. I was just like, well, if I work harder and I work longer and I do a good job, I'll make more money. Well, that's true, but you'll find its cap in what you can produce and what you are capable of doing, right? So strategy in personal development is something that I picked up late in the game. Probably, I will say, likely in maybe a decade ago. Now, I had seasons of personal development, but after the Marine Corps and after I couldn't get back in, I got a big fat case of the fuckets. And then you add on to that I had a very, very difficult time conceiving a child and battled through infertility treatments and surgeries for 3 fucking years. I was like, wow, what is the point? Like, why am I even trying for anything? So there was a pretty dark season of my life for about 4 years long. But I didn't really have any direction. And quite frankly, I didn't want any direction. I didn't really give a shit. I was like, I mean, I would have been okay if it would have just ended. It wouldn't have been a bad deal. Would have been better, just being honest. But when I finally learned that I'm the motherfucker that gets to decide, and if I don't, I'm just going to drift and hit the shore and bounce off the rocks and the trees and all the bullshit, because I'm not going in a strategic manner to avoid those things. I'm just going to run into all that shit along the way to nowhere, right? So I'm alive. I'm here. 80 years, 60 years, 50 years, however long God allows me to be on this earth. If I want to hit less trees, have less pain, I'd probably better make a decision to decide where I'm going. And that is where personal development comes into place, okay? So in 2015, I made myself a list on my notes app in my phone. And I literally decided, I imagined the man. Maybe he's not even real. I mean, it would be Christ, but I didn't even get to walk with him, like, you know? But if I close my eyes, I can see the man. Like, maybe it's a combination of men that you've ran into in your life, you know, and you pick up pieces from them, and you're like, you know, if I had to say, this is the man, right? What are his traits? What are the traits of the man that you see, that you respect, right? Do you guys respect a lazy man? Do you guys respect an arrogant man? Do you respect a wasteful man? Inconsiderate man? A weak man? You know, there's all the things, right? So you guys all know the man that you respect. You have the vision of him in your mind. Well, I started my personal development and my strategy in personal development by literally making a list of who I want to be. I had to decide. And it wasn't just good enough to say, I want to be like Jesus. Well, that's all great, you know, but let's break that down. Let's break that down so that these are manageable, attainable steps, right? Well, who is Jesus? Well, he's all truth and all grace, Chad. Okay. Was that the only thing you need to be as a man? Capability to speak truth and have grace? I don't think that's all Jesus was, you know? My point is developing strategy and personal development by deciding and defining who you want to be and becoming that shit every single effing day and holding yourself accountable to those things that you've decided you want to be, those traits. My list doesn't end. I mean, I could get my phone. It's a very personal thing, but I have nothing to hide. I've got a very long list of who I want to be. And by God, you know what's interesting? Because I can look back at that list, all the time that's gone by. I'm like, fucking good job, Chad. You fucking not struggling with this shit anymore, you know? Was it easy to get there? No, it was hard. But I had to start by deciding who I want to be and then building the strategy to get there. So if I want to be fit, I don't want to be a dad bod at 43 where my daughter's like, man, my dad's freaking bum, you know? Like, that's not a huge deal, but it's if I'm going to be the best possible version of me that I can be, I'm going to freaking work on all that shit. Why leave anything on the table, you know? So let's just talk about physical fitness, personal fitness. If you want to be fit, but you don't put the plan in place to become fit and work that program or that strategy, do you think you're ever going to become fit? Absolutely not. So in regards to personal development, I would encourage you guys to actually make a list of who you want to be and put it somewhere on your phone or somewhere where you're going to have access to it. Don't write it on a piece of paper and throw it in your underwear drawer. Actually write it down and look at that thing in your daily reflection time. Who in here has a daily self-reflection time or quiet time, whatever you'd like to call it? Does everyone start their day with quiet time? Generally, kind of. Okay. Well, if we're not self-reflecting every day on our day previous, how are we ever going to get better, right? So I would encourage everyone to make a list of who they want to be, and then develop the plan, and start self-reflecting on that every single day and hold yourself accountable. Because you know a lot of you are, who's an entrepreneur? God, you guys. 3 out of the 5, 4 out of the 5, 6 out of the 5? No. You're the only one that's not independent entrepreneur, right?
Yeah, right now.
Okay. That's 6 out of the 5. That was good, right?
Yeah.
Who's going to hold you guys accountable?
I am.
Anybody else? The banker? Sorry, I had to get a drink.
Peers to an extent.
To an extent, if they want to,
They really love you.
if they want to take the risk of getting their ass chewed or letting you, kick them out of your life, what if they had to tell you something bold and you were like, fuck you, man? That's a risk they may not be willing to take. So they may not even hold you accountable. Matter of fact, they may be, like if you're not leveling up with your peers and you're hanging out with a peer group that's equal to or less than you in quality, what makes you think they would ever even have the thought that they needed to hold you accountable? If they're drinking 12 packs of beer on a Wednesday night, and that's not something you approve for yourself, and you have 6, and you expect them to say, hey, bro, take it easy. No, you could say to them, hey, man, I'm sorry I drank so much last night. And you know what they're going to say? No, you didn't, bro. Right? So the only person you really have to hold you accountable is yourself, truly. You can hope that someone else will, but daily self-reflection and reflecting back on your list of who you want to be to strategize your personal development. Now, I'm kind of grouping some of these things together. Does anyone know what SMART stands for? Has anyone ever heard the acronym SMART? Have you ever used SMART for planning purposes?
Versions of it.
Okay. Does anyone want to take a guess at what SMART stands for?
Yeah, Bo.
Yeah?
Specific.
Meditation,
I've learned it because
Yeah, please share it. Please share it.
specific, measurable, attainable, and then I don't know R and time
Time constrained.
What's
Say
R?
R is, you have to forgive me. Let me get my phone. I know how to make plans at this point, so acronyms are really good to get in a habit, you know what I mean? But once you understand how to plan, and thinking through an acronym can slow you down, but when you're trying to learn how to plan, using acronyms is really good. You understand. Yeah. Acronyms are really good for training, but once you've got it down pat, you just apply it and you're not thinking about R. You're just utilizing that whole process. That makes sense?
Realistic.
Relevant. So I call them, I mean, it could be realistic. I actually, when I'm teaching, I say realistic because they do. Relevant and realistic are kind of a similar thing. But realistic could also be achievable, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So let's walk through SMART goals real quick. If you're setting a goal, is it okay to say, I want to be rich? You think that's a good goal?
No.
Well, I mean, not if you want to accomplish it, right? I want to be rich. So you have a vision board and you write down your ideal income and you say $500,000 a year, and that's all you say. Well, that's more specific than rich, but there's no planning in that, right? It's just, I want to have $500,000 a year, okay? That isn't specific enough. What you need to do is if we're using money for an example, you write down $500,000 a year. And then you decide how you're going to make that $500,000. And you build the plan out for how you're going to make that $500,000, whether that's $10,000 here, $50,000 there, $80,000 here, $120,000 there. And you plan all that out. And you make sure that what you're doing is measurable. You guys understand what measurable means, right? Anybody give me an example of if you're setting a goal, like how would you be able to measure it, right?
Record data.
Be able to track it, right? Pretty simple. Track where you are currently and where you need to go, right? Is it achievable? So if you put $500,000 a year on your vision board and you say you want to achieve that in 12 months, but you're at ground zero, you have nothing built, right? You have to decide, is that achievable? Nothing in my mind is not achievable. If you say you want to make 500,000, but you don't decide the amount of integrity that you want to have and the amount of character that you want to have because you haven't decided who you want to be, you can make 500,000 a lot of easy, a lot of quick ways that aren't necessarily good ways, right? So I will say that achievable, if you have the courage to write it and the courage to run it, the courage to build the plan, and you have the perseverance to work that plan, anything's achievable. You understand that, right? But is it realistic? Is it realistic? Given everything else you want to do in your life, right? If I said, well, yeah, that's realistic, but I'll have to work 70 or 80 hours a week, right? And I have 2 children and a wife at home and a dad that's not doing well. Well, is that realistic for my life? That I'm going to be able to work 80 hours a week to hit this $500,000 goal? For me, no, I would say that is unrealistic, right? So you have to be very intentional when you're goal setting, and you have to think of all the things that you're trying to build, and we're going to get to these next pieces. But we just want to talk about general goal setting and using the SMART acronym. Now, there are 3 things that we're really discussing here in this segment. Number 1 is general strategy. Number 2 is strategy in your personal development. Number 3 is strategy in relationships. Now, if you haven't decided first and foremost who you want to be, you're not going to be able to be very strategic in whom you're picking to do life with, right? What do you guys think about that? Do you agree or disagree or? So if you haven't made a set list of who you want to be, when you go around and you meet a new buddy, like he smokes pot and punches his girlfriend and has a piece of shit 89 Nissan Sentra and doesn't have any aspirations for life and lives in a van down by the river and doesn't give a shit. Like naturally, I don't know. You could say that's good to go. But if you haven't decided who you want to be, maybe you would accidentally say, well, that guy's a fun guy. He's fun. We go out and we shoot the shit. We drink a lot of beer and we have a good time, you know? But being strategic in your relationships. How many of us have stumbled upon a girl that was cute and she ended up being super fucking toxic? Has anyone ever gotten into a relationship with a girl that was like the hot shit? Like, man, hot shit. But you got into a relationship with her and all it was a bunch of fighting and self-centeredness and bullshit. Okay? Well, again, if looks is our only strategy in finding and what relationship we want, we may make some bad choices, right? Right? Now, if we're not honest enough with ourselves and we say that looks is nothing and that personality's everything and we marry freaking Fiona, isn't that her name?
Yeah.
Shrek's wife? Right? And we marry Fiona, right? And then 10 years down the road, like we've worked on ourselves, right? and we're doing pretty good and we're feeling pretty good about ourselves and we're catching eyes from all the other girls, but she's never going to be anything different because she never told you she wanted to be, right? You've got to make sure with who you're aligning with that they are aligned with you. This is part of strategy in relationship. You have to make sure that who you're doing life with is aligned with where you are going. You understand? So I'm going to give an example in business because relationship is really in everything, right? When I was scaling a company, I knew that I was going to be scaling it quickly, and I knew that if I was going to scale it quickly, I needed to surround myself with people that also wanted to do the same, that had drive and had passion and enthusiasm and were inspired to become better, right? I wanted to surround myself with like-minded people, right? So part of my interview process was to see who had the courage to dream of a better future. Because if you have the courage to dream about it, it's more probable that you have the courage to accomplish it, right? Because it takes a lot of courage to dream, to envision a better future. Some people never do because it's scary. Because what if they fail, right? So what I did to align my relationships in business was I would ask people, where do you want to be? I was, this silly shit, right? This first question, where do you see yourself in 5 years, right? Well, I took it a step further. And did you watch that podcast? A little bit of it? It's long as shit, dude. So, I mean, a lot of the things I talk about, I actually covered a whole lot in that. But when it comes to making sure that you're aligned with the right people, when I met my wife, and this is the same, it's within business, it's with my relationships at home, my wife, all of it. When I align with someone, I ask them where they want to be. Like, I ask them deep ass questions. Like, when I was hiring people, I would say, hey, close your eyes. And they would be like freaking weirded out. This is in the fucking interview. I would say, I want you to close your eyes. And they're like, and I'm like, I'm fucking serious. Close your eyes. I didn't cuss at them. I'm a little bit more professional than that. But I'd say, I'm serious. I want you to close your eyes. And I'd say, I want you to tell me where you see your life in 10 years. I'd give them 10 years. And most would say, I don't know. I'm like, so you close your eyes and all you see is freaking black? Like you can't even envision where you want to be in 10 years? What is your ideal life? Some people never slowed down enough to even imagine that, right? So I'd walk them through the process. And I'd say, hey, so I'm going to start simple. You're leaving work. What are you driving? You're driving home. What are you driving? Someone would start by saying, oh man, I'm driving just a modest car, Toyota Camry, just good modest car. I'm like, okay, is that really what you want? Is that really what you want, or is that really just what you think you're capable of? You know? Because what we really want and what we think we're capable of are two completely different fucking things, right? Because I guarantee the guy who says he wants a Camry and drive that for his pinnacle, probably lying. Would you guys agree? Like, there's nothing wrong with a Camry, right? But if that's your trophy, if that's your pinnacle, I don't believe you. Do you think that's someone's pinnacle? Could be. But if it is, they should probably stretch a little bit. Now, if I'm talking to someone in Africa that doesn't even have a fucking Hot Wheels to push around the freaking dirt, well, they could tell me they wanted a Camry, and I'm like, let's fucking go. Look, we're in a fucking America. We have all the endless opportunity here to become anything we want. So we're playing on a different set of rules, all right? So I would force them to level up. I'd say, no, man, like really, what do you want to be driving in 10 years? Someone would say, man, I want to be in a F-250, limited, leather, jacked up, 35s, brand new, Alpine stereo, all the things. And I'd say, that's good. I said, okay. Now, can you see yourself in this vehicle? They still have their eyes closed. Can you see yourself in this vehicle? Yeah, I can. Can you feel it? Yeah, I can. All right, that's great, man. So you're driving home. You're turning onto your street. Is it in a neighborhood or are you out in the country? Oh man, I'm out in the country. I'm like, oh, well, tell me what you see. And they're like, oh man, it's, I'm driving and it's a paved road and there's trees on each side. It's kind of wavy. And I'm like, all right, man, so which way are you turning to go home off the main road? They're like, I'm turning left. They know all this shit. Once you start getting them thinking, they know all this shit. They know what the fuck they want. And you guys, if you've never done this, you know what you want too. You just have to freaking close your freaking eyes and find it. And they'd say, well, I'm turning left. Are you turning on a gravel road? Yeah, it's a gravel road. Is it dusty? No, it's one of those freaking oil-packed ones. It's country, but it's not, Okay. And we're driving down their road, and then I say, okay, you're turning into your house. Is your house close to the street? Like, I'm asking them this shit, and they're like, no, man, my house is off the street. You can't see it from the road? No, you can't see it from the road. Well, tell me what you see. Every single effing person was capable of telling me exactly where they saw themselves in the future. Every single person, once I started to walk them through it, right? I'm telling you, that was true. Why did I do that? Why did I do that in my interview process? When I was choosing the relationships, we're still talking about relationships. We're being strategic in the relationships that we're surrounding ourselves with. Why would I ask them what their future looks like?
Showing people with aspirations.
Because I wanted to be aligned with people that had vision for something better for their future or aspirations. 100%. George, how long did it take before I asked you what you wanted out of life? Before you had well, it took us a while to build the relationship. You didn't trust me for a very long time. But then finally, you told me about really what you want to do, your passion, right? What's your passion?
Like in regards to this vision or in regards to what?
Well, I'm talking about what you've shared. Well, you've shared the whole fucking thing with me. But let's talk about your personal business and impact goals.
Well, probably the biggest one is in Mexico we don't have high schools like we do here, and I would love. There's a lot of talent, like a lot of athletes in Mexico, a lot of people that are really capable, that don't have the opportunity to play sports. Like for them to play sports, they have to either stop going to school. Their parents have to be rich. If you see a Mexican,
They can't be normal.
No, if you see a Mexican on the Olympics, that guy went through everything. Like,
Yeah.
So I would love since it's a country that still up to these days, it's a third world country, we give them an opportunity to utilize their gifts and to have a relationship with God and to grow up in a system that cares about them and protects their gifts, and it's able to utilize their gifts to generate money for them and for the country and put them in a position to show how capable everyone around the world is, and once they're given the opportunity that we get to have just because we're here, so that's one of my biggest passions. Like, that's my dream, to have a church in the front, big school, best facilities. I've stolen your phrase, state of the art. I know everyone uses it.
Whose phrase is that? Josh's?
He uses it so much on his business, so now that's what I want to do in regards to the facility. So
that's your life dream. That's your big vision. That's your big ticket.
Yeah, that's helping other people achieve their dreams, but through sports and through their gifts. So that's my biggest gift. Do I want to be successful? That would become secondary if I get to.
Well, you have to be successful in order to fund that, right?
Yeah, no, I have to be. Yes,
right?
Really.
Yeah, you have to have a lot of money. How much is that facility going to cost? $100 million?
At least, plus all of the drama with the government. So probably.
You have to buy a lot of people off?
Yeah. So I can be like, fuck you guys, I have my money, thank you. Sounds
like you need to run for office instead. We need politicians with that character.
Right? So George told me that probably, I don't know, we knew each other a little bit, but we didn't really talk a whole lot. Probably 3 weeks after regular interaction, I wanted to make sure that we were aligned, you know? Wanted to see where his heart was. That's important to me, knowing where someone's heart is. Not for an employee, for someone who I'm going to be working closely with, it damn sure matters, you know? But then I also want to know if they're long-sighted or short-sighted. Because if George would have come to me and he's like, oh, I just want a house in the village or whatever, and to have $250,000 401k and, you know, all this, like, we maybe wouldn't have aligned, you know, because I needed George. I need George to help me build, you know, build something great. So I needed to know he had the ability to think and to dream great, right? I'm very strategic in my relationships because if I'm not, I'm going to partner with the wrong people and then I'm not going to hit my goals. You understand? Who's hired somebody just because they needed to fill a spot? Okay, what got you in that position? Desperation. How did you become desperate? How did you get to a position of desperation?
Not planning accordingly.
Right? Not being strategic, right? Right? You find yourself in desperation, then you have to make desperate decisions, right?
Kind of like what me and my dad are doing now. Like he does part of his jobs that he has on the south side using my name for the company
Yeah.
for Windows, and right now he's laid off an employee that was just like there helping him every day about going about the Windows, and since he's no longer using that employee, he's looking for work and he needs help. We can't necessarily team up as much because I'm just a little bit more. Let's say I'm just as busy as he is with the Windows, so it's not like we can always come together and do it together. But he went on Facebook and was on those Facebook groups that just hiring quick employees that want to make some quick money, and I'm just like, well, we can't necessarily do that because in my dream or my future with the company that we're gonna go, it's like you have to have the right people to be a part of your company with the right vision to get to where you're gonna go. And so I'm like, you have to have preparation, and at least if you're gonna do something like that, do 5 people and then interview all of them to see which ones you think would be best to fit. But right now he's just in a situation where he's just having her come on because he needs the help right now.
Because he has to have it, right?
He has to have it. And it's like my situation with him is he plans to have it for at least a month and just see if it's good with him, that he can throw her my way. But I'm like, I don't want it to be like that.
Yeah. I want to be strategic in my hiring, right?
Yeah.
How old's your father?
How old is he? 38?
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you are likely going to find yourself more successful than your parents' generation?
Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like you've already developed a bit more of a strategic thinking ability than he has already, right? How did you develop that?
It could be, sometimes it could be through prayer, meditation, just, trying to sit down and
Does God teach you things?
Yeah.
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just think of it like he doesn't see, I guess, the future that I'm seeing, so I want to be able to at least try, like you said, help him, break that down and see if he has that vision or not. See if we would still be good to work together or not. And, just see if that would be, something where we can go far.
Right.
And if not, then just see how we could.
Yeah. So, man,
Well, I got
Yeah.
a few things on this spot.
please.
So, strategy in a relationship. It's huge, right? I always used to, so I've always had clerks, essentially as a secretary. And whenever I was interviewing that person, because I knew they were going to work closely with me, I knew that they were going to deal with information that was sensitive. I would always bring them in and be like, where are you from? Just basically, like, let's build a rapport. I'm from Dallas. Man, the Cowboys fucking suck. That was the first thing I would tell them. Yeah. And I'm looking for the person who's going to be like, well, who's your team? Not the person who's like,
Someone with some assertiveness, right?
yeah. Because I want someone who's willing to stand up for themselves. Because I need someone that's going to stand up for me. Yeah. so that when I'm not there, if an employee is talking shit about me because of a decision I made, maybe they can say, hey, I don't think you see the full picture. Let me fill you in. Let me bring you in on that. And I always talked to them, told them they were going to be my co-pilot. And years ago, there was an issue in some of the Asian airlines where they kept having crashes. And as they dissected those through the black box and all the transcripts and all the recordings and looked at everything, trying to figure out where this problem lies, why are these countries, these groups of countries, having more plane crashes than other places? Preventable plane crashes, not a bird flies into an engine or something like that. And what it boiled down to was the culture. Because that co-pilot was lesser than and treated as lesser than, they would say things like, is it getting cold outside? Rather than saying, we need to de-ice the wings. They would say, and then they would come back around and say, do you think it's icy outside? They would never state the problem, right? And I need someone who's going to tell me if there's a problem, if my ship is sinking. I grew up for a long time being told that don't come to me with problems, come with me with solutions. I learned very quickly that's a cool slogan for leaders to say. But at the same time, that can get to the point where I have someone looking at a hole in the wall of the ship.
Doesn't say anything about it.
And they're trying to figure out how to fix that hole. I have a whole team of people who that's their job. They went to school, they studied, they learned those things. But they don't want to come tell me that there's a problem because they don't have the solution yet. You need to have people who are willing to come tell you those problems. Now, what Chad's talking about, where you have to have people that have a vision, that vision doesn't have to be your vision, but they need to strive to be something else, something bigger. And we talked about it today. Not everybody you have is going to be a leader. You need employees. Because someone has got to come to work for you. You have to be able to trust them, right? And the way that the Navy SEALs talk about trust, they say, I trust them with my life, but I don't trust them with my money or my wife, right? You just have to be able to trust that person to be a good steward of your company, a good steward of your money, and not do anything dangerous, right? And if you can bring those people in and create that culture, a lot of will this person fit? They will come in and fit that culture, or they will leave. But you have to create that culture. That's part of the strategy of building that company. Because they will come in, and if the expectation of everybody else, and everybody else is busting their ass day in, day out, and not throwing materials away because they didn't need them on that specific job, and they're not looking for the ways that they're going to save money or do things more efficiently. Like if they come into that culture and everybody is busting their ass, making things happen, and is pulling on the rope in the same direction, that person will either fall in line or they get weeded out. So yes, you have to pick and choose, but you also have to have those employees there.
Yeah.
And the way to mitigate the timeliness is to have that strategic forethought and say, there's going to come a day when I am growing so fast that I don't get to be as selective as I want to be when hiring people. The mitigation strategy for that is build the culture where the culture takes care of the character on the way in.
Of developing the people, right? Yep. I agree with you 100%.
So on that topic, that's some of my thoughts.
Yeah, that's great, man. Thank you. So to simplify, guys, you have to decide what you're looking for, and you have to define it, right? So if I'm hiring for a position, and we're talking about business, but gentlemen, this is in every relationship in your freaking life. If I don't decide that I want to hang out with high-level achievers, if I don't define that, what does that look like? Because there's a bunch of high-level achievers that don't have the character that I want. And I'm very picky. I'm very, very picky with who I surround myself with. Because if I just simply say, well, I want to surround myself with high-level people and high achievers, do you think they're all going to have good character and trustworthiness and loyalty and compassion and humility and all of the other things that are important to me? Not necessarily, right? There's a lot of high achievers that got there because they don't give a shit about anybody else and they're willing to steal from everybody else as long as they get to the top, right? So if all you say is you want to be around high achievers, that's pretty fucking dangerous, right? You might find yourself in a bunch of relationships in 10 years that you find yourself compromising your morality every day, but now you're there. How do you break free from that? You know, you're doing business with these people now. You're ingrained into their lives because 10 years ago you were not selective. You weren't decisive and strategic in whom you were surrounding yourself with in your relationships. So determining the values in that relationship that you desire for them to have, right? So if I'm hiring a dispatcher for my business, I might have a separate set of values that I'm looking for a dispatcher than I am for a COO. Would you agree? Might be looking for a completely different set of strengths and character traits out of that dispatcher than I am for that COO, right? Hiring his clerk may look completely different than looking for the next meritorious promotion to gunnery sergeant, right? Mm-hmm. So deciding what you're looking for and defining that before you start looking. When I didn't know these things, like I didn't sit down and do these things, and subconsciously you guys do these things to a degree, subconsciously already. But if you're not deliberate and intentional, you might miss some of the things, right? Like when I started dating my wife, I never committed to a woman like ever. Like I dated a girl for like 3 weeks and that was it. Like, I mean, I ran through them, man. Like I was not interested in relationship, but I'll tell you why. Because I learned very quickly that these hot girls, like, man, I want a pretty girl. Like I like to look at pretty girls. They're pretty. I like to look at a pretty woman. Like I'd look at a pretty car, right? You look at a Ferrari and it's like got nice curves and it's well shaped and nice. Like I think a woman is probably arguably one of the most beautiful things on the earth, to be completely honest with you. And so I'm not talking about like lust and all this bullshit. I just, if I'm going to envision my perfect car and it's a beautiful car, I also would envision my perfect woman, which would be a beautiful woman that I would consider beautiful, right? And beauty to everyone is different, right? That's the praise God that there's a different woman for everyone in the world. But I knew what I ideally liked for beauty. But every time I got to know these beautiful girls, it was like they were trash. And that sucked, you know, because like I had a very high standard. I mean, I'll say it like it is. My sisters, like they had a lot of traits that were very respectable. My older sister was like, she was like the GOAT. Like she was locked on, man. Like she was the most like intimidating female in her entire high school because she was so squared away. I mean, she was shit hot, not attractive. I didn't think of my sister that way. And I think there were prettier girls. I know my sister's pretty, but I think there are prettier women out there than my sister. But her character was impeccable and her reputation was impeccable and it was respectable, commendable. And so unfortunately I had that expectation, but my sister wasn't the hot girl, right? She wasn't sexy, she wasn't flirty, she wasn't fun, you know? And I wanted both. Sexy, flirty, fun, and fucking squared away, right? So every time I'd meet the sexy, flirty, fun, I realized they were just pieces of shit, to be quite frank, and it wouldn't last very long because I was like, man, like why would I even waste my time with this, you know? Like I already got what I wanted, like why would I continue? But that's not really a respectable thing for a man to do. I wasn't very respectable when I was 19 or 20 years old. But when I met my wife, she had the beauty, but she also had the self-respect. She was fun, flirty, cute, hot, all the things. but she also had enough self-respect to not let me freaking touch her, you know? And that alone made me realize that maybe there was more to her. And us not fornicating, you know, right up front, like, it allowed us to have deeper conversation, you know? And we got into really deep conversation, like, who do you want to be? What do you want out of life? You know, what are your goals? And she was able to communicate them. And we aligned. We aligned in our who we want to be, what our expectation is of integrity and character and standards for marriage and commitment and raising children and all the fucking things. Y'all, we had all these talks before I screwed it up by dipping my wig, you know? We had all these talks. And then when I was in boot camp, we fucking wrote letters to get to know each other for 3 months. And then I went to freaking MCT, SOI. And that was another month, I guess, maybe. And then I went to all my training schools, artillery school and
A scout observer.
well, the damn Naval Gunfire Spotter course. And that's another 4 months. And all the while, we were not seeing each other. All we were doing is talking on the phone and writing letters back and forth. So I had ample opportunity to ensure that that key relationship in my life, that we were aligned, you know? And I wasn't going to settle for anything less, quite frankly. Like, I was surprised that I found her so early on because I was pretty young. But these are things that if we do them intentionally and deliberately, we won't accidentally be tempted into the wrong relationship out of desperation. You guys ever found a friend that you just started hanging out with a buddy because you wanted somebody to hang out with, you called everybody else, and only Johnny was available, so you fucking call up Johnny, and he's always not doing anything because he just sits at home and drinks fucking old fashions, you know? Makes a hell of an old fashioned, even puts a bitters in it, you know? But he's always at fucking home. You can always count on Johnny. Well, maybe he's not the one you need to be hanging out with, right? But out of desperation to avert loneliness, we end up hanging out with the wrong person. Out of desperation, we end up hiring the wrong employee. Out of desperation, because we can't control our freaking sexual urges, we end up with the wrong woman, right? Out of desperation, we make mistakes. That isn't a very strategic life at all. So strategic communication, we're going to move into that next. Let's talk about strategic communication, because this is something, and I'm going to use an experience that I've had in like a week or so ago. What do you guys think being strategic in communication means? Like, what do you think that could possibly entail?
Thinking twice and speaking once.
Yeah? Or even being strategic with how you enter into a conversation? You gave us a pretty good strategic communication example. You said the Cowboys suck.
Yeah.
Was that strategic, or were you just
Absolutely.
wanting to be a dipshit?
No, absolutely.
Strategic, right? Okay, so if I'm just meeting somebody, depending on the outcome of what I'm looking for in that relationship, maybe I need to come in soft so that we can develop trust. Maybe trust isn't a factor. Maybe I'm not concerned with trust at all, and I'm just needing to execute, right? All of that strategy determines how I'm going to communicate in that conversation, right? If I need somebody to come on board, if I'm needing somebody with me, right? I might enter into that conversation completely different than if all I'm doing is trying to accomplish a mission, right? So there's things to understand about sensitivities, right? Like if you don't have a relationship yet with someone and you're bringing up sensitive subjects boldly and frankly, do you think, I mean, it's potentially they may not receive that well, you know? If you're calling them out on something and you just met, like, they may not receive that well, right? But if you've had a relationship for a year and a half or 2 years with that person, you feel confident you can call them out, right? So we're naturally strategic in communication. But always asking yourself, this is very important, always asking yourself, what do I want out of this encounter? What is my goal in this encounter? And knowing it. You don't write it down, that's pretty fucking weird. But knowing what you want to accomplish in this communication, in this meeting, in this interaction, right? What is your goal? Well, Bo had some experiences this year where he just wanted to try and collect the money. Didn't need to make a relationship, right? You just need to collect the money, right? Completely different than if you were calling your girlfriend, right? So you're naturally strategic in your communication. So naturally we do these things subconsciously, but we should be doing these things consciously so that we're deciding what we're actually doing and not just hoping for the best. Does that make sense? You need to know what your goal is, your outcome of this interaction, and you need to communicate in such a way that will lead toward that goal. You guys understand that, right? Has anyone ever done sales? Ever done sales?
Not what he, I want to talk a little bit in regards to strategic communication.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
So I think he's referring to me.
I'm not. I'm giving. I mean, did anyone else think I was referring to them?
Well, so I had a plan because I had to present something Tuesday, you know, with the other chat, you know, and I had everything, all of the information, how to get the deal done, right? But I never thought about my communication in that situation. For me, it was like I'll just give him the answers. I don't care about anything else, right? And I was like, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong, you're doing. And I'm talking with a guy that it's worth 100 times what I can think of, right? And it's and then he pulls me aside and he's like, when you're telling someone, like first you need to build trust, and then once he trusts you, you are able to, like all of these details are nice, but like he needs to trust you so that he can listen to you. So for me that was at least surprising. Well, because I was just trying to, my objective was to get him as many answers as possible. You know, like this is what you're doing, like it's no secret, you can take this and do it yourself. But he's like, that's not how you communicate with people. So I just wanted to mention that because even though I did plan a lot for that meeting, my communication was not ideal.
So if you want to be trusted by someone, if you need them to trust you, can't come in hot and start telling them everything they're doing wrong, right? They might just be like, all right, buddy, hey, look, thank you. We're not fucking doing this. You know, I'm 45 years old. My net worth is 50 million. We're good. All right? You know what I mean? Like, if you want someone to hear you, you've got to develop trust first, right? And so you have to know what your goal is. Because maybe, let's just flip this, and this is George and a guy, and George was his supervisor, and he was having an accountability session. There would have been nothing wrong with his communication, right? If he was simply having a review period with a underperforming employee, and he's pointing out the facts, your bottom line is shit, you're failing in the kitchen, your hostess stand is understaffed, your tables are never bust, and the food quality is subpar, right? Maybe that's how you need to come into this. Maybe this employee needs to have some discipline, right? So the way that he was speaking could have been very strategic if the goal was different. You guys understand what I'm saying, right? So it's knowing what you want out of that interaction and communicating in such a way to get to that goal, right? Being strategic. Now, all of these things require one thing that is paramount and foundational to success in any of that. Can anyone tell me what that one most important thing is to be able to operate in a strategic manner?
Care.
Not necessarily. Ideally, yes. Ideally, yes. What's something else? Can anyone else think? To be able to operate in a strategic manner.
Vision.
Oh, there's one more thing I'm looking for. Self-control. If you do not have control over yourself, you cannot be strategic. Why? Let's go back to picking a woman. If you're a fucking horn dog and your freaking loins are freaking throbbing because you walk past a girl with her cleavage out and you chase her down and freaking take her to your car, and now you got a baby and fuck, now my whole life's going a trajectory that I didn't expect it to go. Ah! Right? Well, that's a very crude example of self-control, right? But it's fucking real. Or let's say you're in a business meeting and the guy says something that pisses you off and you have no temperament and you pop off and fuck up the whole conversation and then you end up getting in a fight, argument. Well, weren't very strategic, were you? The lack of self-control, impulse control, really is what it is. The lack of impulse control will never allow you to be strategic, ever. Because you'll have a plan and you'll go in there and then you'll get up in your feelings, then your plan's gone, right? Self-control is imperative to have a strategic life. So, does anyone have any questions regarding strategy? This is a very root level conversation to get you guys to think about being strategic in everything you do. My wife has no idea the depth of my brain. And I don't think a whole lot of people do. I don't really share it. My brain is overactive. It's always thinking. And I'm always planning. And I'm always mapping out. And I'm always strategizing. Always. And I have these strategies like sitting over here. I may not use it, but I've figured it out. And when it's time, I already fucking know how I'm going to do it. But I just have it sitting over here in the corner of my mind ready to pull back up, right? And if one of those things in that plan that I've built over here for this thing that I'm waiting on could or could not happen, and something changes, like maybe this relationship severed and that relationship was part of my plan or whatever, part of the strategy to do this thing, well, I fix the plan in my mind, I re-strategize it, and I sit it back down in the corner for whatever it's time, right? Bo and I experienced a pretty catastrophic piece of information tonight, and I'm not going to share it, but he was given a really bit of information that, quite honestly, changed the trajectory of what his vision and his strategy was. Am I correct? He handled it very, very well, but now his strategies bust. His plans bust. To a degree, not completely, but pieces of it just exploded. And now he has to re-strategize. So we spent 20 minutes on the phone kind of developing the next little 2 weeks or months of strategy. And as we get past there, I'll help you strategize more, right? But we recovered that strategy very quickly. We couldn't just leave it open-ended. So you'll see that everything I do is very strategic. If you call me with a problem, if anyone were to call me with a problem, I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to hear you and understand you. But my main method, my main intent is to help you strategize the recovery or strategize the workaround. I'm going to help you do that. Before we get off the fucking phone, I'm going to help you come up with a fucking plan that you can execute, that you approve of, that you're comfortable doing. Why? Because that's how fucking important strategy is. Because how much stress does it cause you when you don't know what you're going to do? Someone was talking about running out of money in the business and not knowing how you're going to make payroll, right? How can you ease that pain? Creating a plan, strategizing a plan. Now, whether or not it worked, it's a whole other fucking thing. We get better at planning and strategizing as we mature. But creating that plan allows you at least to go to sleep that night, right? Okay, I got a big shit turd thrown on my face, but in the morning I'm gonna grab a fucking washcloth, I'm gonna put some fucking soap on it, and I'm gonna wash my fucking face. All right, and go to sleep. You gotta have a plan to alleviate the stress, right? Guys, strategy is one of the most fucking important things to learn how to live in life that there is. Because without strategy, you're never gonna hit your target. You understand? If you are bow hunting and you don't strategically pull back your string, let's say you're longbow hunting, not compound bow, because that's back and release. But if you're longbow hunting and you want to send the arrow further, you pull it back further, right? The further you pull it back, the farther it goes. Well, if you want to hit your target, you have to know the strategy on how far to pull it back, how high to aim it over the target, and when to release, especially if it's a moving target, right? You have to have strategy if you want to hit your target. You can't just go, well, I'm just going to fucking fire away and hope for the best. That's what living unintentionally is every single day. When we wake up, if we don't put a plan together and we don't run a strategy, we are literally shooting in the air, hoping for the fucking best. Sometimes we get lucky, gentlemen, but it always costs too much.
I have a few thoughts. So when I think of strategy, I think of a Yogi Berra quote. Anybody know? You guys know who Yogi Berra is?
The Yankees player.
Yeah, the king of dumb.
Oh, they're talking about hey, boo boo.
No. No. Yogi Berra, the baseball player. So he was famous for dumbass quotes. And one of them was
I swear.
he was riding down the road with someone, and his passenger said, "Hey, Yogi, are we lost?" And he said, "Yes, but we're making great time." That is what the lack of strategy gives you. You may be moving fast, but you're not moving in the right direction.
Man, what a waste. But you said it in the very beginning.
Yep.
What did you say about strategy and the lack thereof? That it wastes.
It wastes time.
Wastes time.
Effort. It wastes time. On strategic communication, this is something I've learned from a lot of no's, right? A lot of times where a conversation didn't go my way, to the point where late in my career, I started like role-playing conversations. If I was going in to get a good decision and I needed my boss or someone to go ask that question, I would say, what do you think their concerns are gonna be? Okay, what are the answer to those concerns? You know, why are they always negative about this? Why is it that they're negative about this? How do we address that? And have those conversations ahead of time so that I know going in that I can
How to prepare for that.
how to prepare.
Yeah.
And then also what we call the combined arms dilemma. Combined arms dilemma is where my actions on the enemy are driven to make the enemy make a decision that makes them more susceptible to me in another way.
I want you guys to hear this. Pause for a moment. He's talking about combat strategy, right? Do you think that's applicable in life? Do you think it's applicable in business? It 100% fucking is. Please continue.
And so the way I would use that is I would go to someone and I'd say, do you mind if I park 3 cars out here in front of your building? Sure, that's not a big ask. What I'd want is that whole parking lot for me. But I know if I go in and say, can I have your parking lot? They're gonna be like, fuck no. But getting that yes on something makes the next ask easier to say yes to. And you use that in business. Hey, can I clean your front windows? hey, I finished those. Would you like me to do all of them? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But I would always look for those questions and opportunities to get someone, and not manipulative. You can't do it in a manipulative way. You have to have
Has to be
the
genuine.
integrity
Yeah.
that you're going to take care of them on the back end. Because the second you don't, and you are not a good steward of that trust, then you lose your credibility.
And people see right through that bullshit.
Yep.
Like, guys, they're foundational things that teaching you these things. If you don't have the integrity, if you don't have the self-control, if you don't have the basic principles lined out, these are just going to explode your fucking life because everybody's going to see right through your ass.
Yep.
You're going to be looking like a used car salesman out there, you know?
So it's not manipulating. It's just making it easier to get to that yes. Okay. Another big tool that I learned over the years was listening is the biggest part of strategic communication. Because so often, it's easy to go to a door and say, "Hey, can I clean your windows?" No, I don't think right now is the right time. And say, "Yeah, okay, let me walk away." Or you could say, "Why is it not the right time?" Well, my car's being cleaned, and I don't have any cash on me. Oh, not to worry, I'll invoice you. You can send me a check. Well, I still don't think it's the right time. Well, when would be a better time? Well, I'm waiting on to find a landscape company in order to get my flower beds done before I get my windows cleaned. Well, sir, I know a landscape company who could get that done this week, and we can take care of those windows. Because I have sat in the rooms where I've asked someone, "Do you want to join the Marine Corps?" And they're like, "No." And I could be like, "Got it. Respect your decision. It's not made for everybody."
Have a nice day.
Yeah. But I have literally sat with someone and said, "What's your concern?" They're like, "Well, I think I need to make more money first." Well, why is it that you need to make more money? So that I can set myself up for a better future. Okay. You know, you get paid in the Marine Corps. Oh, I thought it was an all volunteer force. Yes. Meaning you have to volunteer to join, not we don't pay you. And I can get to that yes.
Help him overcome his own objections.
Yeah. But if you can't
100%.
listen and understand what's important, because I've also been in the room where someone says, financial responsibility is important to me. And I could be like, cool, we're going to pay you. Or I could say, why is that important? Because I want to take care of my family. Why is that important to you? Because I grew up and my mom did illicit things to make money, and I never want my family to have to go through that.
Yeah.
Let me talk to you more than money. There's so many other things we're going to provide you that answer the why someone wants something rather than just what they want.
Give him the real why.
So you have to be willing to listen and ask questions to understand. Because if you don't understand what they want, then you're not strategically communicating. You're fishing with a net rather than a bow and arrow. Does that make sense? You can fish with a bow and arrow, right?
Yeah,
I've
you
never
gotta
done
be
it.
Good.
I've never done it, but people do it.
I've fished with a spear gun.
Yeah.
Underwater.
And in that situation, you're going to hit that.
That shit's hard, but I
But
shot a fish.
if you're just catching a wide net, you're going to catch all kinds of things. But if you want to catch what you want, you have to know what it is and how to get it.
Yeah,
So,
it's good. Key takeaways, gentlemen. Strategy is a roadmap. It is a conscious plan of action designed to achieve specific goals, not just reacting to circumstances. Again, self-control. It provides clarity, focus, and control. Craft your idea self. I really want every one of you to do this step. If you don't do anything else, I want you to do this step. Personal development requires strategic self-reflection. Identify your values, strengths, and weaknesses and ask yourself, who I want to be. That's the million-dollar question. I'm going to share mine with you guys after we're done. SMART goals. Use SMART acronyms: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Gentlemen, this is extremely important. If you've never heard of SMART, you need to remember SMART, okay? Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So you guys, on the back of this page is everything I'm reading. So you don't have to take the notes there. It's like the back of your algebra book, but it's not just the odds. The evens are there too. Relationships require strategy. Define what you value in relationships. Again, I shared with many examples on this. Lane shared many examples on this. Trust, communication, respect. You define the values. You define them. Practice strategic communication and invest consistent effort in nurturing connections. Business success demands strategy. Establish a clear vision and mission. Analyze your market, identify your competitive advantage, and make data-driven decisions. Proactive versus reactive. Strategic thinking is proactive, anticipating challenges and opportunities. Avoid simply reacting to problems. Plan ahead for success. Continuous improvement. Strategy is not a one-time event. Regularly review and adjust your strategies based on feedback and changing circumstances. I think we've given examples on every single one of these numbers. On number 7, our example was talking about the catastrophe that Bo had delivered to him today. Well, that would be a changing circumstance, right? So what did we do? We pivoted and created a new strategy right away. It's a continuous process. Take action today. Start applying strategic thinking to one area of your life immediately. Set a small, achievable goal for next week and build momentum. So I'm going to challenge you guys to do one effing thing. Who has made their list of who they want to be? Has anyone ever done that? You have? You have?
Gotten very specific on future goals.
Yeah.
Previous coaches,
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Great.
Questions, people ask you questions, powerful questions, and it can elicit some pretty crazy answers. And I also found that before I made a goal, I didn't know where I was going. I thought I did, but then whenever I wrote down what my values were and what was important to me, and then what my current trajectory was, they were totally different.
Right?
I had to readjust
Yeah.
what my values are, and then realign to those instead of what was kind of urgent at the
Yeah.
time, stretching me thin
Yeah.
all different ways as a business owner.
You were making good time though, weren't you?
Good time, all the way up until that.
Full
moment.
gas, yeah.
Yes, sir.
So I continued. The last time I updated my list was September 19th of this year. Shit, that was like a month and a half ago. I started this list over a decade ago. And as I have accomplished and been able to conquer one of them, like consistently, right? Consistency is the goal. It's forever. Like, am I patient? And I've had to work like hell to be patient because the temptation for not being patient is everywhere, right? There's tons of stressors, tons of urgencies that disallow patience, right? So there's times where that patience is not something that you can have, right? If you're about to freaking get in a car wreck, you can't be patient to reach over for the brake pedal. You need to fucking grab the brake. But generally, to have that control and be able to decide when you want to be, when you need to be patient, being able to be patient. Those are two completely different things. One is strategic. I'm deciding to be patient. The other is, do I have the capability to be patient? Do I have the ability to be patient? That's what I'm referring to in this. But I have a really big, long list, guys.
That's great.
And a lot of it, some of it's very personal. But yeah, I would encourage you guys to do the same. And I would encourage you guys to look at it. It's surprising. I will tell you guys, goals are like this most powerful thing. Because every single year in my businesses, I have made goals. And you know what? I don't look at them every day. But I make the goals somehow. I look back in 9 months and I'm like, holy fuck, we accomplished all this. How is that? Because our mind is a very, very powerful thing. How was it that I wrote out a vision board 14 months ago? And I had on there I wanted to have a luxury car rental service, car leasing service. I swear. I didn't even know Anthony. It's true shit. 6 months ago, Anthony calls me. Hey, I want to have a business meeting with you and a couple of my buddies. All right, whatever. He shares with me his vision. And I'm like, bitch, that ain't your vision. I swear. I'm like, that ain't your vision. And I showed him a picture of my vision board. So that's my fucking vision. How the hell does that happen, gentlemen? How does it happen? I don't know, man. I'm telling you. But making goals and making a plan and writing it fucking down has power. It has effing power. And when you start planning and you start setting goals, you will be shocked when you look back in 6 months and you're like, holy shit, I've accomplished every single fucking one of those. So I would encourage you guys to do two things. Make a list of who you want to be and at least write down your goals for the next 6 months. If you haven't created a vision board, you really desperately need to do that. Desperately need to do that. But thank you all. I really enjoyed this chat tonight. So thank you guys for coming.
Appreciate it.